There's no doubt there will be a lot of anger because, of course, we are more than aware of other people over the years who have been similarly charged with downloading, possessing images of children that are indecent, and many of those have actually gone to jail as a result. Having said that, many others have had suspended sentences, so it's difficult to draw an exact equation between them because, you know, it's not uncommon for someone sentenced for the offences that Hugh Edwards has been sentenced for today to get effectively a community order instead of a jail term. And he's been given a jail term, but a suspended jail term for 2 years. Now, we should say that I've stepped out of shot for the moment. Now, that doesn't indicate that Hugh Edwards is coming out imminently. It's just that the police, understandably, want to try to keep that main avenue where I was standing, where Hugh Edwards will come out, clear, so that we don't have as big a bun fight as we often do with the press descending on individuals coming out of court. So we'll give you and continue to show you the live shot of Westminster Magistrates Court main door. I'm told by my producer Tom Fredericks that he's inside at the moment, that he's meeting with probation officers and other officials to work out the sort of wherefore, all the sort of whys and wherefores of the programme that he will be on going forward. I should say as well that we've had a statement from the Crown prosecution. Right, now I'm told from my producer that it is imminent that Hugh Edwards will be coming out in the next couple of minutes. So just keep an eye on that main door for the departure of the former BBC main news presenter. And while we await his departure from the Magistrates Court, I can bring you a statement just in from the Crown Prosecution Service from Claire Brinton, who has said accessing indecent images of children perpetuates the sexual exploitation of them, which has deep, long-lasting trauma for these victims. The CPS and the Metropolitan Police, she said, were able to prove that Edwards was receiving illegal images and videos involving children via WhatsApp. This prosecution sends, according to Claire Brinton, a clear message that the CPS, working alongside the police, will work to bring justice to those who seek to exploit children wherever that abuse takes place. So that there, the response from the Crown Prosecution Service following the conviction, the sentencing of Hugh Edwards to that 6-month suspended jail term, suspended for 2 years, meaning that if he offends at any point during those 2 years, he'll be returned to court, and it is possible that he could be sent to prison to serve that 6-month jail term at that point. In the meantime, what will happen is he will be effectively a free man, but with certain obligations. Those obligations to attend a sexual offences treatment programme. That programme, the defence for Hugh Edwards had wanted to be voluntary, that they claimed that Hugh Edwards was more than willing to cooperate, would go fully willing and able to take part in that programme. But according to the Chief Magistrate, he wasn't satisfied that that was strong enough, that he wanted to ensure that there was no way that Hugh Edwards would in any way not attend any of these rehabilitation classes. So he has been given a compulsory sexual treatment order that he will have to attend. I think the judge said it was something like a 40-day treatment programme that he will have to undergo as part of the other processes that he will have to be part of, dealing with a probation officer on a regular basis as well. But that one other point, that the prosecution were really keen on the Chief Magistrate here imposing that sexual harm prevention order has not been granted. Now, as I speak, I can see Hugh Edwards through the glass coming through the security area, just thanking those security staff and other people in the court, and he is now coming out of the double doors and coming towards us with shouts. Let's listen to what's being shouted. What do you say to your victims, Hugh Edwards? Will you give back the £200,000 to the BBC? So no statement from Hugh Edwards, no acknowledgement of my questions or the other questions being shouted to him as he gets in to that limousine just at the front of Westminster Magistrates Court. That Mercedes now heading off with Hugh Edwards inside, having been sentenced to 6 months suspended for 2 years. You're back with me now. So all the police that were here just in short order, as soon as they came, now they're just disappearing again, because people were just here for Hugh Edwards. Now that he is gone, the crowds will clear pretty quickly. The main sort of spectacle, if you like, has gone, having been sentenced. Shouts clearly you could hear from some people quite angry at the fact that this man has, as they see it, escaped a jail term, now heading off for whatever treatment that he is likely to receive in the coming weeks. As far as that treatment programme is concerned, the treatment programme for his mental health, and we heard a lot about his mental health, his cognitive impairment issues of severe depression, a potential for suicide. We were told that he has been an inpatient at a private hospital for quite some time and has been responding positively to the treatment that he's been receiving there. However, and this is why, as we said just before Hugh Edwards came out there, the prosecution was asking for a sexual harm prevention order. Their fear is that once he is back out in the public, if you like, away from that continued envelope of care that he's receiving in this private hospital, that there is the potential for him to regress again in terms of his mental state, and to potentially go down the road again of offending behaviour, to drink and to be somewhat impaired in the decisions that he is making. That's why the prosecution felt a sexual harm prevention order would be the order of the day, and why they were really hoping that the Chief Magistrate would go down that road. But of course he decided not to. So Hugh Edwards now, having left Westminster Magistrates Court, his career is over, as we know, but at least for him, he will not be spending any time in a prison.
Now, Mark, we're just going to take a little look back at that moment. Hugh Edwards walked
coming towards us with shouts. Let's listen to what's being shouted. What do you say to your victims, Hugh Edwards? Will you give back the £200,000 to the BBC? So no statement from Hugh Edwards, no acknowledgement of my questions or the other.
Well, there we go. That was the moment, Mark, that Hugh Edwards left Westminster Magistrates Court. You could hear a number of journalists, including yourself, asking him questions. No response. I should say, Mark, that just in the last few minutes we have had a statement from the BBC, from a spokesperson, just a short statement saying, "We are appalled by his crimes. He has betrayed not just the BBC, but audiences who put their trust in him." Mark.
Yes, he has absolutely done that, but there are also some serious questions for BBC management to answer here, because you remember a lot of this stemmed from allegations that were made originally in the Sun newspaper earlier last year, claiming that Hugh Edwards had paid a teenage boy for sexually explicit images. There's a BBC internal investigation being carried out into that initial allegation. The police had decided there was no criminal offence, and of course the whole process was sort of interrupted, if you like, by the news that Hugh Edwards was being admitted for psychiatric treatment. And we don't know, and we don't think actually the results of that internal investigation will be made public. There's no indication from the BBC that they plan to do that. But during this whole process, senior management of the BBC were made aware in November of last year that Hugh Edwards had been arrested on serious sexual allegations unrelated to the first allegations, but serious sexual allegations. And according to the BBC, they were advised by the police not to say anything publicly. That may well be the case, but despite that, they continued to pay this man his full salary, although he wasn't, of course, an active presenter on the BBC at that point, and continued paying him this salary to the tune of about £200,000 for 5 months. Now, the BBC, as you heard me shout to Hugh Edwards there, are you going to give the £200,000 back? The BBC is asking Hugh Edwards to return that money, but again, no indication yet that Hugh Edwards has done that or indeed intends to do that.
Talking with you as he first walked into Westminster Magistrates Court 2 or 3 months ago to offer his guilty plea. You've spoken about the stark difference in demeanour, in character, even in cadence of this man from when he walked in compared to walking out today.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, there was a certain arrogance, I think, about the way that Hugh Edwards walked into court on the 31st of July. Now, whether that was just him being badly advised or whether it was fully coming from him and he decided that this was the approach he wanted to take in going into court, but it was effectively, and we can give you a shot down there as I'm speaking to give you an indication of how long this walk was. Down this road down here, and round the corner in fact, Hugh Edwards got dropped off in a taxi and then walked all the way up that road, pursued by members of the press. He was wearing sunglasses, and one of my colleagues here said, you know, he looked, you know, like an emperor, you know, just pounding his way in with all the confidence in the world. So whatever the advice was, if he was advice, I think that that was bad advice. It wasn't a good look, and it was in stark contrast to that today. You didn't get the long walk in. It was a taxi that pulled up just 2 feet from where I'm standing, no sunglasses, straight out and quickly into court. And then, of course, you just saw him coming back out and into that car and away again, no statement from him. But you know, for me, I think the mask did slip a little inside the courtroom as well. And it spoke to me of someone who doesn't, despite what he's saying about being so deeply remorseful for the offences that he's pleaded guilty to. Lots of shaking of the head and scowling at the prosecutor when the prosecutor was talking about the potential harm that Hugh Edwards might still pose and why there was the need for this sexual harm prevention order monitoring his internet browsing and the potential for him to lapse back into offending behaviour. You know, as I say, shakes of the head, grimacing and those you know, rather disgruntled looks at the prosecutor. So I'm, you know, we are told that he is very remorseful. The Chief Magistrate accepts he was very remorseful, but for several moments you could see that he was in complete disagreement about the potential risk that he still posed, in particular to children.
Absolutely
very interesting.
fascinating to get that perspective from inside the courtroom. Mark White, thank you so much.